More controversy at Minnesota's Department of Corrections. Even more men moved to the women's prison. Taxpayers footing the bill for men's makeup. And essentially the end of the canine program. A sergeant who spent nearly 20 years working behind the walls shares details. Next. Shane Warnke Jr. is my guest. Shane, thank you for being here. Appreciate you joining me.
Thanks a lot, Liz. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm a huge fan. Thank you for the work that you do.
Well, thank you for that. I know you retired about 2 years ago now from Stillwater Prison, where you were a sergeant and a leader of the emergency response team at that facility. Gosh, lately, though, it seems there has been controversy after controversy at the Department of Corrections. Now the latest news is that the canine program will basically be ending in November. The DOC has said beginning at that time, 2 single-purpose drug detection canine teams will serve system-wide. What's your take here, Shane? What do you think of this plan?
Woke lunacy, Liz. I mean, having worked in the prisons for nearly 2 decades, I know firsthand just how important the canines are every day within their duties. The incarcerated individuals would know on any given day whether or not the dog was there, and that would dictate how your shift might go and how they might conduct their activities on their end. So I'm going to call it out like it is. Somebody's going to get hurt or killed. This is going to be a snowball effect. The Commissioner of Corrections is eroding this agency from within. Every day it's something different.
They're saying this is a cost-saving measure. They're also saying this is a liability issue. But I've talked to plenty of corrections officers at this point, and they're saying it's the opposite. This really is a safety issue. And what's interesting is there has been, again, a push that, hey, don't talk to the media. You better not talk about this. And that seems to be something you hear quite often as well.
Absolutely. I started my social media platform, Concrete Conversations, about 3 years ago now, and really with the intent of eliminating this systemic thing that occurred where they would silence you through threats on your right to speak out, even in the midst of extreme corruption. And I wanted a way to connect everybody together and be able to share information in real time so everybody was on the same page.
This ties into another DOC situation, and that is the closing of Stillwater Prison. Right now, the prison is being shuttered in phases. It will permanently close in the summer of 2029. As someone who's worked there and knows the facility inside and out the way you do, what do you think about the closing of Stillwater?
First and foremost, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, you're talking about people with, anyone from just a couple years into their career up to people that are within striking distance of retirement that now have to, totally change their lives around. This is going to affect their families, their local communities, and we have yet to see the end result of the ramifications of this decision.
It sounds as if they are moving lifers to medium security facilities. Something like that is even on the table. I know Republican members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, they are now demanding a public hearing on the closure, because again, this is something that just kind of popped up during the legislative session, and hey, we're moving ahead with this plan with no real input, it sounds like.
Liz, absolutely. And I think really it boils down to this. They are in the process of, scrubbing or changing custody level points to allow for, let's say, an offender, incarcerated person that was previously classified as a level 4 or 5. They're now going to be placing this caliber of criminal thinking within facilities such as Faribault and Lino. The staff collectively have not dealt with this level of criminal thinking as a collective whole. That historically, that's never been how the prison has ran at Lino.
And let's not forget, they're now referred to as incarcerated persons, I believe.
Right, and they change that every other year. I think next it'll be clients, like 5-star resort type status. So
unreal. Meanwhile, 2 more men, Shane, have been transferred to Shakopee, which is Minnesota's only women's prison. Difficult, I think, to understand how this doesn't pose security risks. One of the male inmates who's been sent to the prison recently, Nathan Jones, he was charged with felony assault for attacking a rider on a Metro Transit bus. Another male inmate, Tony Booz is his name. He's serving time for arson. We've done many stories on this. Many women inmates, they've reached out to say they do not feel safe. They're scared sharing these spaces with men in prison. What's your take on all of this? Does the Department of Corrections in Minnesota care about women or safety for that matter, Shane?
I'd have to, at this point, Liz, I'd have to venture and say they don't. I mean, you're talking about women incarcerated within Shakopee that have more than likely all have experienced severe degrees of trauma throughout their lives. And prison is supposed to be a place of reform, rebuild, lessening recidivism, helping people become their best selves. Now you're placing these trans people in the prisons, and these women are feeling re-victimized every single day. It's absolutely lunacy. It's craziness. I don't know how else to say it.
I know you've heard this as well, but corrections officers are talking about how Minnesota taxpayers paying for this insanity in more ways than one, footing the bill for boob jobs, voice lessons for men who want to sound more like women, even makeup for men. The list I know is much longer, but perhaps the bigger issue is that none of this would be happening without somebody giving orders or the go-ahead to allow it. You worked for the DOC for nearly 2 decades. Was this happening before Governor Tim Walz took office? Do you think Walz, his commissioner, Paul Schnell, have been encouraging this in a way and leaving Minnesota taxpayers to pay the price?
Absolutely. When I first started, there were some trans inmates or women, or excuse me, offenders that, identified as being gay and took on female qualities on their own fruition. As my career progressed, and we were, towards the last part of my career, which included the tenure of Commissioner Paul Schnell and Governor Tim Walz, his stuff was just getting rammed down our throats. And it got to the point where, traditionally you do a lot of strip searches in prison. That's how you maintain the safety and security of the facility. But it was like these inmates were able to play us because one day they could be a woman, the next day they could be a guy. And we had to bow down and cater to that like we were in a Shakespeare play.
And again, on this whole subject, it seems Minnesota's corporate media has remained silent. These women have reached out basically to anyone who will listen, but it seems almost no one wants to hear their pleas for help.
Right. And I think from an outsider looking in, it's clear to see that Paul Schnell's nothing more than a marionette puppet who takes orders from Walz, who's taking orders from somebody else. It's clear to see. I mean, they're trying to ram this ideology down and basically create even a more erosion with this environment that they both, I would say single-handedly, each one of them had their part in creating this, and it went so far the other way in such a short amount of time.
I know you've been a vocal critic of toxic leadership, as you call it. You're going to be launching your own podcast soon, Standing Up and Speaking Out, which we certainly appreciate around here. So tell us more. Where can people follow your efforts, Shane?
Absolutely. So, right now we're tentatively launching everything in September. We will have a YouTube series as well as a podcast. Right now we're on X, 10K Lakes, No Filters on X, and 10K Lakes, No Filters on YouTube as well. And we're going to look at expanding that. Basically, our premise is we're having real people on with real stories and real Minnesotans, and no fluff. It's right to the point, no filters.
We know plenty of material. Shane Warnke Jr., thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Liz. It's been a complete honor. Thanks for having me.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.